Welcome back to the third installment of Essential English Study Guides, a series of videos dedicated to helping you with those pesky concepts in English that you just need to wrap your head around. I am Ms. V, and today I'm going to start to take you through that crazy house analogy that you might see pop up from time to time. Specifically today, I'm going to guide you through the topic of text structures and really answer pressing questions like, do you know what they are? What can you even say about them? Do authors really think about these sorts of things, or has my teacher taken a few too many loopy pills this morning and is reading way too much into everything? So, first of all, I just want to give a big shout out to my colleagues who worked with me back in 2020. Together, I think we could give ourselves an A++ because we had a great teacher moment and we created this beautiful gem. So, thank you so much for Mrs. Roxby and Miss Ellett to help me with that. Anywho, this house analogy was created to help make those topics that are really hard to wrap our heads around something into more solid, something that we could actually visualize. Now I'm going to go through each of these individually, and by the time we get to my final video in this series, the house is going to make a whole lot more sense. And honestly, I hope that you can make more sense of your English work as well. So just bear with me on this magnificent journey, and let's just start with text structures. Now, text structures. Oof, honestly, the QCAA, their definition, it's actually pretty good. But there's a lot of words to it. And I do actually love it, but I do know that some people see this and kind of freak because they want something shorter. And essentially, it just comes down to this idea, right? When I think about it, we think about this word text structure, and some people really hold on to that word text because it's the first word. But really, I want you to focus on the word structure, not the word text. Because we hear text structure, think text, we think words, but it's not. It's literally just how the text is organized. It's how it's structured. And that's it. That's our definition. Now, I want you to think about a house. The first step in building a house is designing it. Figuring out how big you want it, how many levels, do we want a bathroom, do we want two, do we want a garage, how big's the garage, where do we want those windows, is the front door going to be big or small? They're going to need to do up some blueprints, right? That's kind of what we're talking about with the house. They need to draw up blueprints based on what they know about the people moving into the area. And when it comes to our text structures, we're literally just talking about the idea of it being a blueprint of a house. And all of these steps are kind of like creating a text, just like a project manager deciding whether they're checking up a couple of houses or a block of units and what that's going to look like. An advertiser has to actually make a decision about the type of text they're going to use. Obviously, if they're targeting teens, they're probably going to make some sort of trendy TikTok video, right? But that's not going to be how you're reaching a millennial like me, who's kind of old and still loving a good Facebook ad. And don't get me started about boomers like my parents. They're probably going to want a printed advertisement in a newspaper. Am I right? All of these different texts serve a different purpose. They're created differently and have different structures. You can advertise the idea of bullying on each of these three places, but it's going to look quite different. Videos are going to be structured differently to a social media post, which is structured differently to a print ad. Just the same as like a house is structured differently to a block of units, which is structured differently to a library. You can literally drive down a road and you can spot all of those things just based on what they look like, just the same as a text. So let's have a look at that in a bit more detail. Now, today is not going to be me going through this in so much depth. It's ridiculous because there's so many places you can get help and you should be really listening to your teacher. The amazing QCAA guide is the best place to find some pretty excellent vocab to use when describing structures. You may also see this little green info sheet along the way, and honestly, 10 out of 10 recommend watching Flocabulary's excellent video, especially if you're a sucker for good educational rap. But I guess my point is that when chatting about text structures, you're chatting about the location and the layout of these things placed on a page. Using words like foreground, background, or just directional words like top or bottom is all you need when you're trying to identify it. And when describing the layout, are you talking about dot points? Is there a title? Is the information ordered in a specific way? I honestly remember one year in the CIA, there were steps listed across the page with arrows following them, and this meant students could discuss how the information was sequenced in a step-by-step format to allow the audience ease of following directions and understanding of how each action would lead to another. Honestly, that was such a great year. So let's have a look at this ad. we've seen it in the previous video. Let's see how we can find text structures in it. What do we see in terms of it? What are the actual blueprints of this ad? Where and how has everything been placed? Now, the easiest one, I'm going to be honest, is always genre. In this case, it's a print ad. My guess is that the sort of ad is being chucked up on the back of a bus or something around the city. It's an ad meant to reach people, probably a wide range of regular people who work in the city and can feel like a hero on their lunch break by going and donating blood. Now, when looking at text structures on the actual text, though, my first step is always asking, well, what is usually the most important and therefore probably the thing our author wants us to focus on? Usually in visual text, I check out the top or the middle, and I especially look at whatever the biggest thing is on the page. So if we look at this ad, the most important thing to our author is actually the message itself. The image with the words donate blood and save a life is smack bam in the middle and is huge. So obviously that's what they want us to know. They want us to make the connection that this medical procedure of blood donation is the focus of their campaign. And honestly, this poster is boring. So really, there are only one or two other structures. One, the title of the poster and the name of the campaign, which is underneath the main focus, and it says World Blood Donor Day. And two, the second is the simple background designed to bring out the message at the forefront. How about we look at one with a bit more substance now, hey? Now, this is what I'm talking about, something with substance. Now, again, I made this a couple of years ago. Let's have a look. Now, this is the magazine front cover page. Again, the first thing I check for is genre. Now, tells us about the audience. Being a very specific subject magazine, we can probably say that it's for science nerds who want a bit of adventure. These people probably consistently buy this magazine, and so it's tailored specifically for their interests. Okay, now moving on. I want you to take a look. Ask yourself, what is the focus? What is big versus small on the page? Why are some of the headlines bigger than the others? How have they ordered the information? What is in the background, the foreground? Now, this would be in the point in the video where you pause. If you're feeling brave, write down a few text structures that you see. Off you go. Okay, are we back or did we never go away? Doesn't really matter. Let's find out. Text structures. Well, the obvious one and my absolute go-to is always a title. Boy, I love a good title. Now, obviously, this title tells me a bit about this magazine. It's all about exploring. As most magazines, the title is up the top of the page. It quite often takes about a fifth, maybe a sixth of the page, but is quite clear as day to the audience. Structure-wise, by having the title here, it keeps things consistent for magazine's audience. Another text structure is the location of the headlines. They alternate side to side. This is honestly mostly for aesthetic, to be honest. Now, while I love a good list, it would make the front page of a magazine look like a contents page if they just listed the articles along the front on one side. So by alternating, the author can actually separate the articles out and give us something more visually appealing and also allowing us to see some main parts of the background image. Now, I've done two. I want you to tell me about what other text structures you spot. Write down any others that you may see on this page, write down the evidence, and for an extra challenge about these text structures, write down what you think the author has, why you think the author has actually made this choice. What do you think their justification would be for actually using that text structure? All right, thanks again. I really hope you remember that text structures are the blueprints for our texts. They are the where and the how big. My next video, I'm actually going to be putting this in a written context for you. So exciting times ahead. Thank you again. Bye.